All right. I said we've already talked to one youth MP this morning, but I thought the toughest job in the youth parliament would have been filling Winston Peters' boots. And we've had Winston on this morning, but the guy who got to do that was Jermaine Del Mundo, youth MP for Winston Peters. And Jermaine joins us, I presume from home. Now, Jermaine, how are you?
I'm so good. Thank you, Sean, for having me on. Hello.
Hello. How did you get to be Winston's youth MP? How did that process work?
I saw an advertisement saying that they're looking for youth MPs for Winston Peters, and I applied. I sent in a CV application and a video application, and I got the part.
Wow. Jermaine, where are you from?
I'm from Lower Hutt, Wellington.
Okay, so you are a Wellington boy. It wasn't a connection with anywhere the many places that Winston's lived. Are you a Winston Peters fan, or were you?
I love Winston Peters. He's just so funny. If he wasn't a politician, I think he'd be an amazing comedian.
Are you a comedian?
No.
Okay. What school do you go to, Jermaine?
St. Bernard's College. Lower Hutt.
Okay, all right. Are your family associated with New Zealand First?
Not at all. They're completely against New Zealand First. I think they're more of a Labour and Greens.
Okay. Is it
leaning.
trendy to be a New Zealand First supporter at St. Bernard's, or do you keep that quiet?
Not that trendy. I just found that my principles align with their principles, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to represent Winston.
All right. So what did it involve? What sort of training did you have, or was it just turn up and see what happens?
So what we did was we had online meetings. We had like little orientations, introduction to what we're supposed to do, like how we're supposed to present ourselves, the different rules for Parliament, and that's about it.
All right. Why did you do it? Was it for the girls? Was it for the experience? Was it for the kudos? Was it for the badge?
Definitely the experience. Also, I just feel like, the issues I want to talk about are very important, especially in this day and age where like other opinions are completely silenced and ignored. And I feel like I could use this opportunity to talk more about the issue.
All right. What are the things that how old are you?
I'm 17.
17, okay. Do you think there have been things, or you've grown up with some opinions you're not allowed to have or not allowed to express?
Yeah, I mean, the way I'm taught, especially when I went to primary school, we're told, oh, you're not allowed to think this. Sometimes I would question things, and they would completely dismiss my questions.
What sort of things are we talking about? Let's be specific.
Okay. Well, in primary school, we're learning about the Treaty of Waitangi. We're learning about New Zealand history. We're learning about how horrible it is, how much of a disaster New Zealand history was. And then I just started asking questions. Okay, why was it so bad? Why is colonization bad? And then instead of answering the question that, I've been asking, they completely, they rejected it. They rejected the premise of the question. And, I was coming from a sincere point of view.
Yeah. Jermaine, this is a really, really interesting and important discussion. I'm going to ask you at the age of 17, was your state-provided education, did it teach you that New Zealand was a racist country?
Yes.
Did it teach you to be ashamed of the colonisation of New Zealand?
It was definitely leaning towards that, or like it's very, that's kind of like the underlying message of what they're teaching.
Wow. Can I just say something to you, and I really mean it sincerely? I grew up in a different time than you. New Zealand isn't perfect, but it is one of the most tolerant countries in the world. It kind of had one of the least violent colonisations in history. And as a society, it set itself up better than almost any other colonised country in the world. In fact, I challenge anyone to find a more unified, though not perfect, society than New Zealand. So can I just assure you that everything you were programmed to believe in your early education was largely bullshit. And it really is important, I think, that people of generations below mine actually realise that. Okay, so that's why you align with New Zealand First, the idea that you can speak your truth. So you go along to the Youth Parliament. Now, I've been reading headlines and I've been reading Chris Hipkins saying you were all terribly, and we've talked to another one of your colleagues today, you were all terribly shut down and censored by the evil coalition government that said you couldn't criticise them.
Yeah, that's completely false. Whatever those youth MPs are saying, Chris Hipkins, I think they just want attention. They just want, they're trying to take advantage of, okay, they're supposed to represent their community and represent the values that they believe in. The values that they completely did not do that. They did not do that. They were not silenced. They were allowed to criticize the government. The provisions we were told was that you're not allowed to, not that you weren't allowed to, but the provisions we had was to make sure that we didn't say stuff that could get us sued, basically. And I think that's about it.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. I can tell you it's pretty hard to say stuff that gets you sued. Only happened to me once in 40 years, and I say a lot of stuff. Jermaine, what were the major debates on the floor of the Parliament that you dealt with?
Well, we delivered speeches. One speech I heard was about Palestine and how there's a genocide going on. Another speech was about how Māori don't have enough rights.
Who was the idiot that gave that speech?
I'm not sure, but throughout his speech, he was quoting statistics by Hamas, by another terrorist organization, and I just thought, if you're going to deliver a speech about Palestine, at least, present a fair, balanced, discussion of it instead of, one-sided statistics.
Did you guys actually get to vote on anything?
No. The three activities were general debate speech, which is like a 3-minute speech, then parliamentary working groups, and question times to ministers. All right.
Was it a worthwhile experience?
It was amazing. I remember after I delivered my speech, I kind of felt like I had antagonized every youth MP. So I was kind of overwhelmed by that, but I remember sitting down with Keegan, who's the president of Young New Zealand First, and he was just reassuring me that, it doesn't matter if the entire country hates you, stay true to your own principles, stay true to what you believe in, and be proud of my convictions.
Good on you. Are you going to go to politics?
It's such a brutal arena.
Well, you look like you've survived your first taste. You're looking all right. I don't see any broken bones.
I'd like to, yeah.
Okay. Some life experience first is always a good idea. Do you think it was properly reported from the media coverage you've seen of it? Because it looked like it was a hotbed of dissent and all these young people saying down with the government and we want to vote. Or do you want to vote at 16?